the Sci-Fi Invasion. I'm Joey Hollywood, and I'm attempting to watch all 50 movies in this 50 movie box set from Mill Creek in 50 weeks. Today's movie was called Future Hunters from 1988. Although it might actually be from 1986 or 1985. I found out recently that the dates that are listed on here aren't entirely accurate. But with this movie in particular, I'm having a hard time finding when it came out because the dates go from 1984, which I do not think it came out then, to 1985 to 1988, and any one of those dates possibly could be it. I think it's a good sign that I actually looked into this movie, because most of the time I just watch it and I record these videos. But when I do a little research, that's a really good sign, because a lot of these movies I'm going in blind, so I don't know what to expect, or I've seen them a million times because they're always in these box sets. This movie, I think it might be the greatest movie ever made, because I'm getting ahead of myself, but after I watched it, actually, I think I was like maybe an hour and a half into it, so there's like, it's an hour and 40 minutes. As it was like coming to the end, I was like, is this movie in HD? Can I watch this on Blu-ray? Because I no joke, I think this might be one of my favorite movies now. It's so insane. Like, it's technically a bad movie, but oh my god, it's so fun. So, what genre is this movie? I know it's in a sci-fi box set, but if you know anything about this box set, that doesn't really mean anything. So, which genre do you think it is? Well, it's the answer to that question is yes, it's all the genres. It's everything. So, I didn't know what to expect for this movie. I don't even like read the synopsis before I put them on. I just put the disc in, press play, and then I let it go. So, I'm watching this movie, and it starts off, and it's like, okay, I see a desert, I see cars, I see dudes wearing leather, there's a narrator, an awesome narrator, by the way, and I'm like, okay, so this is a Mad Max ripoff. And the narrator's talking about the Spear of Time. So I'm like, oh crap, okay, it's gonna start on, it's probably Italian, it's gonna start off as a Mad Max thing, and then he's gonna go transport it back in time, and it's gonna be a fish out of water. It's basically gonna be Beastmaster 2, you know? It's gonna be like all those barbarian movies where they get sent to the present. So it does that. The Mad Max character, he fights all these guys, and you can tell it's the same guy. Like right off the bat, the first action scene, it feels like little kids playing. It feels like a little kid wrote this movie. Like there's just people just shooting, just lining up and shooting. It's horrible, but it in a fun way, like in a really, really fun way. Not in like a haha, this is so bad, it's funny. It's like this is fun. And then the Mad Max character gets transported back in time, and this is where we meet Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson, why did I say that? Robert Patrick, sorry. I don't know where that came from. Robert Patrick. And I was like, oh, I like Robert Patrick. It's the Liquid Terminator. Oh, cool. This is one of his earliest roles, I'm guessing. And he starts off like, I'm like, oh, he's going to be the douchebag character, because he says something like super insensitive. Let me pull it up. He says, since your father died, you've lost all sense of direction. Which is like so wonderfully insensitive. So I thought he was going to be the douchebag character. And he kind of is. I would actually say his character in this movie is like Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China. But it's that character trying to be Indiana Jones or James Bond. This movie's crazy. So the first like 10 minutes is Mad Max. Then the Mad Max character gets into the present, and he saves Robert Pattinson. I don't know why I keep on doing that. He saves the Liquid Terminator and his girlfriend from like a biker rape gang. In the process, he gets shot and he dies. So I'm like, oh, okay, I have no idea where this movie's going then. And from there, they're trying to figure out this like artifact, the Spear of Time, and somehow, like, I would say neo-Nazis, but they're dressed in full like World War II Nazi gear, so not really what I would perceive as what Nazis would do, even in the 80s. Like they're it's like they're from a different time, and this is a time travel story, so that would make sense. But they're not. They just dress like this. They just walk around America dressed as Nazis, and they're the bad guys, and they're harassing them, and it's like crazy car chases with like junky cars exploding. And then it goes into like a cop adventure, almost like one of those like cheapo cop adventures for like 10 minutes, and then it turns into a kung fu movie. For some reason, Robert Patrick just decides to go to visit like a kung fu monastery, and there's a fight scene there for no reason at all. And it's like they even got the kung fu like noises, and it's awesome. And they hired, I looked into this movie, they hired a Bruce Lee impersonator who changed his name to legally sound like Bruce Lee, but in the credits they credit him as a different Bruce Lee impersonator. So a different Bruce Lee impersonator got the credit for his role, and this guy's pretty good. It's shot like a Bruce Lee movie, and it comes out of nowhere, and it doesn't forward the plot at all. And then from there, it turns into like a James Bondy type thing where they're globetrotting now, and then there's still Nazis chasing after them, and then from that it turns into an Indiana Jones movie, and it's got like Back to the Future elements. It's every movie rolled into one, and then they. When it turns into an Indiana Jones movie, they even have the Temple of Doom, like a low-budget version of the Temple of Doom bridge scene, which itself is kind of a copy of the movie Gunga Din. But it's awesome, and then they meet like a bunch. They meet a race of midgets in the Amazon, and they keep on calling them Mongols. Which I don't think is accurate, but whatever. This movie's insane, and then for like like 10 minutes, it turns into the ending of Return of the Jedi, where all these midgets are just fighting all these Nazis in the wilderness, and it's so insane. And then from there, we just stumble across Amazons. Like, I want this movie on Blu-ray, and sadly, it's not on Blu-ray. It's not on Blu-ray at all, and I don't understand why. Because like this movie, like if you're into bad movies, this movie's more insane than Miami Connection. This movie's more insane. Sorry, my hair is just doing something weird today. It's more insane than Miami Connection or Samurai Cop. This is the greatest movie ever made. I'm going to go on Blu-ray.com and I'm going to sign up for notifications to know when this movie is going to be released in HD. I'm considering buying it on VHS because I think that'll have I'll have a first generation copy of it, because this is clearly a copy of a copy of a copy. It's been transferred from one tape to another and then digitized a million times. I'm actually considering dropping $50 and buying a VHS tape of it just so I can digitize it myself. This movie rocks. I hesitate to call it a bad movie, because technically it is, but it is so entertaining. When I first put it on, and I thought it was a Mad Max ripoff that had a time travel gimmick, I was like, oh god, another one of these. I've seen a million of these. And I press the timer, and it's like, oh great, it's an hour and 40 minutes. So, and I'm like, oh gosh, and I'm gonna have to talk about it. And then this movie just completely pulled the rug out from underneath me, and I wound up loving it. You are doing yourself a disservice by not watching this movie. Every moment you're not watching this movie is a moment wasted in your life. my notes for this, because I take notes as I watch these, it's so long. I'm going to have to make a big video about this one day, because this movie blew me away. I absolutely loved it. I'm just going to check my notes. I wrote so many notes. Oh yeah, okay, so originally I didn't realize there were Nazis. And there's a big guy wearing a white suit. And I assumed he was like a mafioso. A blonde mafioso, but he looked like a Spider-Man villain. Like he had a rose and he was sniffing it, and he had like a suit. He was like a big, huge, muscular man with a really tiny suit. So he looked like a Spider-Man villain. And like there's so much like interesting things in this movie. Like so much of my notes are like, now it's an Amazon adventure movie. Now it's an Indiana Jones movie. Now it's a Mad Max movie. Like it just kept on changing genres. Let me see. I don't want to give too much away because like it's a movie you really need to experience. I actually like feel bad for like explaining so much of it, but like I feel like you need to know just how crazy it is before you go and see it yourself, because I think it's like one of the biggest draws. The end, like I wrote in the end, the climax involves styrofoam rocks, which is the sign of a quality film. Oh yeah, the characters change depending on the scenes they're in. Like Robert Patrick, he's pretty much consistently kind of a Jack Burton type character, but it's depending on the scene, it's Jack Burton trying to be James Bond or Jack Burton trying to be Indiana Jones. There's so much things in this movie where like it doesn't progress the plot at all, but it's just so weird and funny. I don't mind. Like there's a scene where they get into a helicopter, and the helicopter takes off. And ends up there's a bomb in it. They jump out, and literally seconds later they get into a plane, and the plane takes off, and then the plane explodes, and it's so redundant, but it's so charming at the same time. Oh yeah, but Robert Patrick, like his character's pretty consistently a Jack Burton-esque type character that just is doing different roles, but the female character, her character drastically changes from scene to scene. Like one moment she's like the intellectual, strong, independent woman. The next moment she's Willie from Temple of Doom. The next moment she's Marion Ravenwood from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like depending on what the script needs, her character it could have been different characters. Like she's I don't even know how to describe her, because at some points Robert Patrick's character feels like a sidekick who thinks he's the hero, like much like Jack Burton, who I've been comparing him a lot to. But then other times, like the girl character is almost non-existent as far as the plot goes. So he really is the main character. It's such a bizarre movie. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. If you take anything away from this series of reviews, you should see this movie. I'm not being ironic. I enjoyed the hell out of it. That's going to be it for now. I hope you enjoyed this movie as much as I did. It's pretty easy to get a hold of. So that's it. Thank you for watching. I'm Joey Hollywood. I'll see you next time. Remember, please be kind and rewind.